This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! We got it, the new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast dating to the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
Woo! What up, everybody? It's a Tuesday. It's another edition of Knockouts and 3 Counts. And just for the record, we appreciate you guys being here. We got Corey back. He may not have survived the bachelor party, but he's made it back this week.
No,
Corey, how the hell are you doing?
Still eating cough drops, still trying to get ready for the actual wedding that we were celebrating said bachelor party for. I'm about 95%, just a little stuffy still. So I'm hanging in there though, doing what I can to get better in the time.
Look, man, you just gotta admit it. You can't run with the big dogs anymore. That's what happened.
No, Monday, my job, while being still not 1,000% from entirely too hard of a weekend, was at an urgent care. So I was inside of an urgent care for about 6 hours Monday working. So yeah, with a weakened immune system from drinking all weekend and then hanging out in an urgent care, I think I got sick from something. So
look, bro, you weren't supposed to offer the attendant at the front kisses, bro. Okay, see, that's how you get sick. Didn't you learn anything from COVID?
Yeah. Either way, I'm glad to be on the upswing. Stuffy nose, bullshit. Slept a couple days off, but back to half normal.
All right. Well, I'm glad you've survived and you've made it here another week. And if you guys are watching, we appreciate you. And if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're hearing this on a podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So as soon as we drop, you already got the episode ready and raring to go. Well, as it says in the title, where's the push-ups? We're going to talk about where the fuck the push-ups are, because see, when we make bets here on Knockouts 3 Counts, if you guys have been following us for any length of time, you know that we deliver. Just ask Devin what happened with the water bet. But yeah, Anthony Scoops Fleming will be delivering on his part of the bet. But we're here to talk about NXT Takeover. We're here to talk about UFC 263. We're here to talk about all the things that went down in the world of pro wrestling and MMA. If you guys are watching this and you checked out any of this stuff, let us know what the fuck you thought of this weekend. But I figure, well, how about we'll go in order. So Saturday, you had both UFC 263 and you had the Against All Odds pay-per-view from Impact. Now, self-admittedly, I didn't get to watch it because I was at work and then came home to watch the UFC. But for those of you who did watch it and have gotten to catch up, as I have, you know that some shit went down. Don Callis is trying to flex them muscles over there on that Impact side and saying that he has fired Sami Callihan. We're going to see how that comes. As you know, they had the match between Moose versus Kenny Omega for the Impact World title. And as they were all trying to jump Moose when the Bucks and everybody came out, the lights went out and appears Sami Callihan with what else but a baseball bat. So he came out, made the odds clear for Moose. I think it had more so to do with Kenny. But as I said, it's now been confirmed, or at least it's being rumored now, as Don Callis said on the pay-per-view, that Sami Callihan has officially, as of right now, been fired from Impact. So we'll have to wait till this Thursday to see what comes from that. Like I've talked about a little bit on this show before, I kind of feel like the Impact AEW open door policy really, in my opinion, kind of has been very one-sided in favor of AEW, with Kenny Omega having all the titles, including the AEW title and the Impact World title. I don't think it so much has to do with the titles as much as I feel like, you haven't seen any of the women really cross sides, which that to me makes no sense, because as I've said on multiple occasions on this show.
If anything's
Outside of
left-
NXT, what were you going to say?
I was going to finish your point for you that if anything's lacking at AEW, it's their women's division.
Thank you.
Heard it.
And if anybody outside of NXT has a better women's division, I would argue, and I have said it multiple times on this show, Impact Wrestling has one of the best women's divisions in all of wrestling, my personal opinion. So I don't understand why you wouldn't utilize that the same way AEW's been utilizing the relationship with NWA and bringing in people like Thunder Rosa and the former NWA champion and Serena Deeb. I mean, you've got a whole cornucopia. Look at that word. A whole cornucopia of females over there on the Impact side that I think would do a lot, even if they weren't part of the AEW roster. They would do a lot to help bring more shine to the AEW women's division. So I'm interested to see what comes out of that. I'm a big fan of Sami Callihan. Matter of fact, I was there, ring the fucking bell in New Orleans when he tried to break Eddie Edwards' face again with the bat in the chair. Corey, since I know you won't know what I'm talking about, so the reason why the bat is synonymous with one Sami Callihan. So a couple years ago, WrestleMania 34 season, so we're talking 2018, so 3 years ago now. Leading into one of their matches, Sami Callihan was doing a spot where he hit him with a bat and there was a chair on the guy's face. Well, watch it. When the bat comes down, the chair moves and he ate that whole bat to the eye. Fucking destroyed his whole orbital bone, all that shit. Yeah. So it was pretty gnarly. And so ever since then, he has become synonymous with the baseball bat. So, yeah, man, I don't know. Like I said, big fan of Sami Callihan. I hope we can see some more of the Impact women over at AEW. And matter of fact, I just hope Impact gets some real get back. Like, hopefully, this is opening a door for Impact to kind of get some of their shine back, because even though Don Callis said that Sami Callihan is fired, Scott D'Amore has come out in tweets. If you look on Twitter, Sami Callihan screenshotted their text and D'Amore assured him that he's working on it. So we'll have to tune in this Thursday to see what happens to him and other past guests of the show, like Rohit Raju, Jake Something, who's going to be doing his thing this Saturday, June 19th, on the Title Match Network for Pele Pro Wrestling, as he, along with past guests of the show, Chandler Hopkins, who he is getting ready to go to war with Mike Bennett, who you just saw on this show this past Thursday. Again, thank you to all of you guys who checked that out. Even the fans from England checking out the interview with Mike Bennett. So, like I said, if you aren't already planning on doing so, Saturday night, you need to check out Pele Pro Wrestling. And this Thursday, we're bringing on the boss man himself, Kyle Hessler, to talk about Pele Pro Wrestling, to tell you and give you a little bit of a preview as to why you need to be checking this out. I mean, the main event speaks for itself. Our boy, who has been making the rounds as part of La Empresa, as well as being at NWA When Our Shadows Fall, El Rudo de las Chicas, Sam Adonis, is going to be defending that Pele Pro Wrestling title against the Islander Jeff Cobb, Guam Olympian in wrestling. This guy is a brick shithouse. My man's just got his blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I mean, look, I'm just saying, I don't want no smoke with Jeff Cobb. Luckily for me, Sam Adonis is going to take the smoke for me. Let's see if him and the Bandit got themselves a game plan for old Mr. Cobb. Like I said, you also got Mike Bennett versus Chandler Hopkins on that one. You've got, I mean, that card is stacked from top to bottom. So, like I said, if you're not doing anything Saturday, check out Pele Pro Wrestling and make sure you check us out this Thursday, as we will give you a full preview to Pele Pro Wrestling. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about UFC 263. I'm not going to go fight by fight, but I'm going to go by the things that kind of stuck out to me on UFC 263. And the first main fight on the main card has to do with another past guest, which is why you got to hit that subscribe button. Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill, as he went to war with the Bear Jew, Paul Craig. Okay, look. So that fight didn't go the way we were necessarily hoping it was going to. I don't know what the fuck fight that ref was watching because my man's arm was out for a good minute and he's just letting them take these hammerfish, just whop, whop, whop. I'm like, damn, dude, are we gonna I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm all for letting them fight, but shit, my man's arm was flapping in the fucking wind.
Props to our boy Jamal, man, for being tough enough to withstand that, though. Like, no bullshit. I watched the interview after the fact. He came out and said, yeah, I mean, I knew my arm was fucked, but I was trying to stack him and get him out of there quickly. Like, that was his mentality when he knew his arm was fucked up. So, I mean, props to him. Of course, like you said, never want to see it go out like that. I was really glad to hear it was just a dislocation. It wasn't nothing actually broke internally. Hoping all the ligaments and stuff kind of are okay. I mean, I doubt.
Well, they said it was just a dislocation. So, I mean, they said it was a dislocation. He was able to pop his arm back in. I mean, obviously, he's got it in a sling, but hopefully that means he's going to avoid surgery. But now, here's the question. I mean, don't get me wrong. Paul Craig was no hoe, but I thought Sweet Dreams had him. So, with this win, what do you think that does for Paul Craig?
Well, Paul Craig's on I mean, obviously, nothing needs to be said of Jamal Hill's win streak because the man was undefeated going into this fight. So, he's on a forever win streak, literally his whole career. But for Paul Craig, he was on a 4 out of 5 win streak, and his one that wasn't a win was a draw with Shogun Rua. So, and then they ran that fight back immediately, and he got the victory in the rematch. So, honestly, I think it's going to be a real contender in his next fight. I mean, not that Jamal already wasn't a real contender, but I feel like it's going to be even more of a climb the rankings type fight. It could be somebody like a Ryan Spann. It could be somebody like a Johnny Walker. It could be somebody like a Misha Serkinov. Could be somebody along those lines. I feel like the 10 to 5. Somebody between the 10 to 5 is who I think he'll be matched up with next if I was to guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to get a big name fight after that because, I mean, they had him as the underdog, and like you said, Jamal Hill was previously unbeaten, so that's a big win, and like I said, definitely wasn't expecting that one to play out that way.
What about the pictures of these boys out partying Saturday night together, out having a fucking couple drinks at the bar, fucking getting down and shit? That's the type of stuff.
That's what it's about, though, man. That's what fights are supposed to be like, man. It's good to see two guys can, fight in the cage and squash whatever bullshit there is, man. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, but it's rare though to that degree, and especially like you'll see somebody, maybe in a close fight, maybe in a back and forth or something like that, but not always when somebody unfortunately gets a little bit dominated, because he was able to get him out in a minute, and realistically it should have been 30 seconds. So, it's with the situation, the way it played out, and especially with him being undefeated going into it, it was genuinely surprising with all the shit talk and all the heat and the weigh-ins and everything, the stare-offs, everything that went into it. I was genuinely surprised when I seen that picture come out. I was happy.
I'm with you.
I was happy to see Jamal Hill just grow from it immediately. He didn't bat an eye. He just immediately grew from it. I always love and hope to see the best for these Michigan boys, especially for the ones who appear to really have a way to the top, like I feel he does. And for him to be that humble in his first loss and lick his wounds, but still, realize who he is and stuff, props to him, man.
I'm with you on it, dude. Like I said, I think he'll be back and better than ever soon enough. We're gonna have to see what's next for him. Another thing that stuck out, since we're going in order of these fights, before I get to the fight itself, I mean, if people pay attention to the titles of these things, which I hope you do because we put thought into them. I mean, if you watched last week, I heard there were some push-ups involved in our next fight. I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. But I mean, let's see if Mr. Scoops Fleming owned up on these push-ups. So
Better hit them,
let me
boys.
yeah, I mean, let's see what he's got here. Let's check it out.
What's going on, guys? What's going on? I owe y'all push-ups. I ended up taking the L, man. I thought Bilal Muhammad wasn't going to win, but he ended up winning. Definitely huge victory. Congratulations to him and his team. So I got you with your push-ups. Take it easy, y'all.
Where the fuck's my push-ups? Those aren't push-ups. Wait a minute. We made a bet. You said there was push-ups. There's no push-ups. Any of you guys who follow Anthony Scoops Fleming on social media, where the fuck's my push-ups at? Shane Taylor, your former Ring of Honor television champion, one part of your Ring of Honor six-man champions, and the cousin of Bilal Muhammad. Hey, man, we got to let this man know what's up. I had push-ups that were supposed to be coming. I tried to tell you so that was about to happen. Hayden told you the same thing, and you didn't listen. All right, now that we've gotten out of the way that Anthony doesn't pay up on his bets, or at least you'll have to stay tuned to see if he pays up on his bets. What are your thoughts on this fight for Damian Maia? Do you think that this is the last fight for him? And on the other side of that, what were your thoughts on Bilal Muhammad's performance?
Well, to make that first question a kind of two-part question, I guess. Do I want it to be his last fight? No, I don't. I don't feel as though that was like a. I feel like Damian Maia is still Damian Maia. I feel like he hasn't really changed too much in the last couple of years, not in a bad or a good way. That's just who he has always been. And he either goes in there and gets the win or he doesn't. And, so, I don't think there's anything wrong with the performance we've seen. I just think he fought a really good fighter in Bilal Muhammad. Do I think it will be his last fight? With everything that I've seen come out in the media and stuff, with him saying that he's not really interested in fighting for anybody else. He's not really interested in anything else. He just wants to get one more fight. And he wants it to be under the UFC banner. I don't know if Dana's going to. That was the last fight on his contract. I would love for him to get one more. I seen the rumblings of both him and Nate Diaz calling each other out. That would be
Nate called. That was what I was going to ask you, though. So Nate called him out too?
Yep. That would be
that's a weird matchup.
I would love it. I would absolutely love that matchup.
I like Nate Diaz in that matchup, dude.
I do too, but what happens if Nate Diaz is like, I'm the jiu-jitsu master and gets cocky and starts rolling with Damian Maia?
He's not stupid. Nate's going to try to box his face off.
You think so?
I think he's going to try to box. Look, man, if that fight was any like indication of what we're going to see from Damian Maia. Here's my thing with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at any of those attempts he had on takedowns, he did not set them up at all. Number one. Number two, a guy like Nate Diaz is very good at using his arms as range. So in order for Damian to even get close enough to grab that knee, he's going to have to get through Nate just throwing his pitter-potter, bop, 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 just throwing his punches, and he's got to get through that. And as we saw in Nate's fight, which we're going to talk about here shortly, I mean, Leon Edwards got what was Nate's phrase on that one? He said, what was it he said? He was sleepwalking. That's what he said. He said he was sleepwalking. Nate said he was sleepwalking. So I hate to say it, but if Damian Maia doesn't go back to the drawing board and seriously set up his takedowns, he might be sleepwalking again because, I mean, he didn't have the best stand-up to really be able to fight off a guy like Nate Diaz, in my opinion.
I agree, but I feel like Nate Diaz has that cocky, confident side that he would love to test himself in a jiu-jitsu match against somebody like Damian Maia. And maybe that would be a fun matchup even for something like a Submission Underground, realistically. That would be something amazing to see in something like that. But even if we did see it in the UFC, I have that feeling Nate Diaz wants to test his jiu-jitsu. You know, he always talks about, he always goes about, you know, how he's the top in the game. Him and his brother, the Nick Diaz army, or, you know, and realistically they are. They're trained by the Gracie family. They've been, you know, notoriously trained their whole life in jiu-jitsu. So it's no surprise that he flaunts it the way he does.
Nate's no slouch on the ground. Look, man, when you can choke a guy out with a triangle and flip off the camera while you do it, I mean, that means you got to have it pretty deep.
You don't think he would try to do some cocky, confident shit like that against fucking
Not in a real fight. Not in a real fight, I don't. I think not in a real fight, I don't. I don't think Nate would be scared to face him in a submission underground, but I think in a real fight, Nate uses his boxing and just busts him up.
Okay, and you wouldn't be interested to see how that plays out?
I didn't say I wouldn't be interested. You said, how do I see that fight going?
Yeah, as a potential retirement fight for Damian Maia, that would be.
I'm not mad at that fight. I'm just saying, do you think they'll actually put it together?
That's why.
Do you think that Damian Maia has a big enough name to fight a Nate Diaz?
Deservingly so, absolutely.
I didn't say deservingly. I said, is that the matchup they would make next for Nate? Because you already know that Nate's not going to fight again unless it's a big money fight.
Well, that's the thing with Nate, right? Is he does kind of pick his opponents, not in a bad way. I mean, he actually
takes tough fights. I mean, to take Leon Edwards off the couch, fam, like.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is he, even though he is kind of his own matchmaker in a way, it's actually kind of for our benefit, I guess you could say. But with that one, I feel like the UFC's plan, if it's not a Conor McGregor, if it's not like a Dustin Poirier or Tony Ferguson or something like that, some really big name where they can make gigantic money via the pay-per-view end of it, I think they're going to just either give him another Leon Edwards, another, you know, so maybe the winner of the Vicente Luque, Michael Chiesa fight that they're setting up, like something like that, where they're someone who they feel as though could be a star, but is on the teetering level. That would be the type of matchup, like the Leon Edwards of the world, that they would match up with him in the future, I believe. Honestly.
I really don't have a pick yet for who I really see Nate going against yet, so I just kind of wanted to see what you thought. But now hold on a minute, we're not done with this fight. Hold on a second. So my thought is, you didn't answer the second part of the question. So that also poses the question where, you know, what happens for Bilal Muhammad next? Because Bilal Muhammad had a good performance, you know, but I mean, obviously I would say when you're talking from Leon Edwards to going down to fighting Damian Maia, I mean, even though he's a legend, name value wise, it's a little bit lower of a fight. So that now begs the question, you know, where does Bilal Muhammad, you know, go after this one? For me, I don't know that beating Damian Maia is maybe the fight that's going to give him a title fight next. But I could very well see him matching up against somebody like maybe a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson or something.
I could definitely see him fighting the loser of the Gilbert Burns Wonderboy fight that they got going. I could
the loser, because technically he's still on a win streak, dude.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Whoever wins that fight, I think is, especially if it's Wonderboy. Not to get off topic here, but I think if Wonderboy goes in there and does something for real against Gilbert Burns, I think he jumps Leon Edwards. I think we got Colby versus Usman next, and then I think if Wonderboy goes in there and does something impressive, he jumps Leon, and Leon's got to fight somebody like a Masvidal or something like that, another person to build his name, because
Masvidal can't have another fight up at the top again, dude. The guy keeps losing. So, like, they got to give... I mean, hell, here's one. We talked about what's next for Nate. Let Nate and the Masvidal fight again.
Okay. I'm not mad about that either. You know, like,
let Nate and Masvidal fight again. That's a big enough fight that they're both going to make some money, which ultimately we know that's what both of them want at this point, is a money fight. I mean, hell yeah, let him and Masvidal fight again. But I mean, we're gonna have to see how it plays out for Muhammad.
That's what I was gonna say. For Bilal Muhammad, he's in an interesting spot. He would have been a lot better off, honestly, if he was able to get a finish against Damian Maia. I am actually a huge Bully B fan. Shout out Bully B on Twitter. Bilal, you're a beast. I root for you in literally every single fight you're in, man. I think if push come to shove, you'd be admitted to that wasn't your best performance either. And I feel like it was kind of lackluster in the fact that you were just defending takedowns most of the fight, even sloppy takedowns at that, and you weren't really able to get off much offense on your end. It was clearly enough in my eyes to win the fight.
Oh, definitely, he won the fight. I mean, he landed the better shots and defended all the takedowns. But I mean, obviously, when you're talking about a fight that's going to put you towards the title, I mean, obviously, you're going to want something a little bit more clear cut. That's why I think, putting him in a fight against somebody like a Wonder Boy or Gilbert Burns or whatever, I think that would be a good enough fight that if you can win that fight, then that would give him clearance, I feel like, for the title shot, which he's not very far out of any way this goes.
No. And you can tell they wanted to give him the push just because of the fact that he was on such an impressive win streak going into that Leon fight. And that Leon fight, say whatever you want about that first round, he's not always the fastest starter in even 3-round fights. So with that being a 5-round fight, I think he was just kind of reserving himself in that first round. But Bilal Muhammad's absolutely somebody on the rise, and I think the UFC is absolutely taking notice of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the guy keeps winning. I mean, here's one for you. What if they run back him versus Leon Edwards now?
I would love it. I've been calling for that.
I mean, I take that back. You know what? How about that? Because let's face it, Leon Edwards looked good against Nate Diaz, but
until he didn't.
Right. And you won the fight, you won by decision, but like Nate Diaz said, I mean, he was sleeping on his feet. He got hit with a good shot. I mean, I don't know about all of what Nate said about, in a real fight that's over, because in a real fight you could have finished him. But I mean, at the same time, no, I mean, he's got a point. I mean, in the same way we just said that might not have been the most entertaining performance for Bilal Muhammad. I mean, you can't say that was really the most entertaining performance for Leon Edwards too, especially for somebody who is trying to make an argument for fighting for a title. I mean, like I said, I mean, I think that might be the fight to make about it. But since we're talking about that fight now, all in all, I would say a good performance from Leon Edwards. I mean, he dominated Jimmy Smith kind of put it best. I mean, he dominated 4 1/4 rounds, and then Nate Diaz did what Nate Diaz did if you let him stay around.
Yeah.
And I mean, here's the thing. This again goes back to the same thing I said before the fight. I think this further kind of solidifies the fact that I think if Nate were fighting at 155 still, I feel like he would, you put that fight at 155, Nate might have finished him.
Yeah.
I really think Nate could still even contend with a lot of the guys at 155, which is why it's kind of, I understand the not wanting to cut weight thing, but I mean, that's why it's kind of really perplexing to me that he still continues to choose to fight at 170. As far as the fight, I mean, I think Leon Edwards did himself a service as far as up until that 5th round. But again, this is where, like I said, him having that spot, this is another thing with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz has once again left himself enough room to where even though he lost, people are going to be wanting to see him fight again. Period. There's no two ways about it. You can say what you want, but a lot of what he said is true. Like McGregor has said in the past that, McGregor says he's the money fight. Well, we heard Nate say before the fight, at this point, Nate is a certified money fight at this point because people want to see him fight. So, I mean, like I said, not exactly. I mean, he looked good for 4 rounds. Obviously not maybe the result that Leon Edwards wanted, but I definitely think with the way that fight went, I mean, I know he's looking for a title shot next, but in my opinion, I feel like he's going to need another one to solidify a title shot after the way that one went. Because you also did that against a guy who's not a natural 170 either.
Not only not a natural 170, or if I'm not mistaken, he doesn't even hold a ranking at 170. So
he doesn't even have a win at 170.
Yeah, so he's not, an unranked guy against the number 2 contender, and that was the performance you were able. Like I said, I am a Leon Edwards fan. I'm actually a Leon Edwards fan when we see him in fights when he actually goes for it. It seems like he's been so reserved in his comeback, man. Like
he was looking good against Muhammad until he poked him in the eye.
He was. Even then, I thought he looked a little reserved. Like, go back and watch his Gunnar Nelson fight. When he whooped Gunnar Nelson's ass with that.
But that was also his first fight after a 2-year layoff, though.
Okay. Ring rust, whatever the...
I'm only saying that towards, like, the first fight because you never even really got to knock the ring rust off because the fight didn't even really get to go. And then, I mean, Nate Diaz makes any fight...
a dog fight.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I'm not.
So, for Leon, to sum up the fight, I guess the best way I could possibly, Leon Edwards won the fight, right? He clearly won the fight, goes further in his contendership to get towards the belt. But realistically, in fans' eyes and everything like that, Nate Diaz somehow is the winner in all of this because he.
And that was another thing I had on the rundown. I mean, Nate, if he knows how to do nothing else, he keeps his name in people's mouth.
Yep, not only keeps the chatter going, he is still that Stockton badass, One thing I gotta say though, because it's just flutter in my mind with every word I try to say because it just bothers me that bad. If you got fucking somebody that hurt, man, why are you pointing and laughing? Why, if he wasted roughly 20 seconds, if not 30 seconds of that last minute with clinch work and pointing and laughing. And especially the exact moment that he chose to point and laugh, if he would have threw 2 jabs in a straight, the fight would have been over. It would have been over. Realistically, we wouldn't have been saying Leon Edwards won and Nate Diaz, it would have been.
Nate could have finished him, dude.
Yeah, it would have been, oh shit, is Nate Diaz the one fighting Kamaru Usman next? Is that what we got going now? And unfortunately for Nate Diaz, it's not because, I mean, he looked like Nate Diaz for 4 rounds. And then in the 5th round, he just really turned on the next level. And it was impressive to see. I wish he would do it more often. I wish he would throw a little more heat in his fire instead of playing the cool guy card all the time, I guess you could say. But no love lost for Nate Diaz. None really for Leon Edwards either. But unfortunately, man, with that kind of fight, win streak be what it is. But 2 years inactive because of choice, essentially, because he didn't like the matchups he was being offered and shit like that. That's it's just not, that performance isn't going to get you a title fight. It's just not. It's just really not. And it's unfortunate because I am a fan of old Rocky Leon Edwards, but he's got to do something else. He's got to do something more, unfortunately.
All right. Well, talking about doing something more, I mean, Brandon Moreno pretty much did everything he could in 2 rounds.
He did.
We've got a new champ in the UFC Flyweight division. I think, before we, and I guess we can talk about this after we talk about the fight, but I mean, everybody was talking about, the story of this fight was going to be if Big Waito was going to win, he was going to knock him out. And if Moreno won, it had to go to the deep. But, before the fight, I was saying it, Figueiredo is going to be a problem for the first 2 rounds. If it can make it to round 3, it's a problem. Sure as shit, dude. Fucking Moreno gets his hooks in, grabs that choke, and submits Davison Figueiredo. And what's crazy about that is that leading up to that fight, they were talking so much about how Figueiredo had felt as though that he had needed to he felt as though he needed to get use his jiu-jitsu more. And Moreno just came out and put it on him. In my personal opinion, I feel like the fact that he was able to stick in there with Figueiredo the first time, I think that took away all the edge and that mystique and that badass factor that Figueiredo had going into the first one. Because you could see from Jump Street of the first round, Moreno came right across the cage and didn't back away, was right up in Figueiredo's face. Like I said, you couldn't really have asked for much more from Moreno in this one. I think it's a great fight. And to be honest with you, even though everybody's on the subject of trilogies, since we're talking about Conor McGregor and Poirier and all that, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, bro. After the way that fight went, I don't know that I need to see a trilogy, bro.
I mean, feelings wise, I don't necessarily disagree, but that could be both of us kind of sleeping on Davison Figueiredo.
Is it sleeping on him, or is it time for him to go to 135 because he looked like shit?
That's exactly what I was about to clarify my point with, though, is I don't think he should, because I think he should move weight classes. Which is unfortunate, because when he does move up, he's going to be fighting fucking the Sean O'Malley's, the Corey Sandhagens, dudes that are like 5'9", 5'8", and he's what, 5'5", 5'4". So it's going to be a significant size disadvantage with him moving up. Either that, or he needs to, for real, take a little bit of time off and just not be quite as hard in the weight training end of the fitness, because being the champ and retaining your belt by only making it to the scale with 40 seconds left in the timer that's allotted, that shouldn't be. It just shouldn't. It just shouldn't be that way. He knew exactly when the fight was. It was 6 months ahead of time. He had a long camp going into it and everything. And this is what we end up seeing, was him struggle to make that weight. So I absolutely think it's time to either move up or take some time and slim down, one or the other, because he is somebody who can't necessarily lose any body mass wise, fat or anything, because he's obviously coming in as shredded as a fish could be. But it's just, he could lose a slight bit of the muscle mass and still be completely competitive and still be bigger than a lot of the 125ers, in my opinion. So,
all right. So here's the thing with that, though. I mean, it's one thing to come in all ripped up for a fight and all those things, but dude, when you come into a fight and you made weight and you still look so sucked out by the time you're getting in the cage. Yeah, like I said, I just don't think that's going to be a healthy move for him. I think it's a statement win for Moreno. And I mean, if anything, it puts 125 on fucking notice, dude.
Yep.
I am
so glad personally that they didn't end up cutting that division. I know they had a bunch of rumblings and stuff about it, but I personally am a big fan of the more fighters, the better. I don't want to see boxing where it's weight classes every 3 pounds, but I would love to see them add something between 55 and 70, move 70 up to 75, add something between 185 and 205, and, make it. There's no reason in my eyes why more belts is a bad thing when you're not adding them every 3 pounds. If it's a 10-pound difference and you have the roster that somebody like the UFC has, and just the talent base that MMA in general is providing in the last couple of years, there's no reason in my eyes why you shouldn't have more stars, realistically. So,
Well, but then there's the flip side to that coin, though. I mean, I agree with that, but I mean, even that being said, look at the rest of 125. Who really is Moreno going to fight next? That's going to have that big,
Not to interrupt, but the matchup that they're just announced, actually, I believe it was yesterday, but Askar Askarov versus Alexander Pantoja, I believe, is fighting in the next
right. And I mean, it would be either one of them would be a good fight for Moreno. But what I'm saying is, depth wise, you can't go through that division and name off 6 guys to me that should be, or even you can't even name off 5 guys that I could say right now these dudes should be in the title picture. And that's the problem that's going to end up happening at 125, because it seems like the smaller weight classes, there's not as much depth there. And I feel like the other question is, even if there are guys for Moreno to fight, are they going to be banger enough fights that we end up in another situation like a DJ, to where, you know, people think the fight isn't going to be, because let's not get it twisted. In order for there to be a fight like there was in the second fight between Moreno and Figueiredo, it takes 2 to tango.
Mm-hmm.
So what other, I mean, there are a few matchups that stick out that would be cool, but I mean, there's not a lot of guys I can go down that weight class and be like, you know what? This is a banger. This is a banger. This is a banger. Like, I want to see him fight this guy, this guy, this guy.
I know.
125 just doesn't have that depth.
Even coming off a loss, I hear a lot of people talking about Cody coming down and making his move to 125. And
I don't want to see that until he wins at 125.
You don't want to see him move down to 125 till he wins at 135?
No, what I'm saying is, if he moves down to 125, I want to see him win a fight at 125.
Oh, absolutely, especially because he's coming off a loss.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. I'm saying in reference to what you're saying, people are mentioning Cody Garbrandt. Okay, that's cool, but I want to see him win a fight at 125 before I say he should get a title shot.
Yeah.
Unless he's the champ at 135, I don't want to see him come down and get a damn title shot.
Yeah, it does.
I don't think everybody that should be
star value or not.
Well, right. I don't think everybody should get the challenge for the next title down. I don't think you should get the next title up or whatever. I don't think you should get the challenge for the next title unless you're already the champ and have cleared out that weight class. That's just my personal opinion. I think that, because I feel like if you do that too much, you bastardize it. And look what happened. It's a perfect segue into our next fight with Izzy versus Vittori.
Before we jump over, though, I do want to talk Viva La Mexico, fucking Brandon Moreno. Let's go, the fucking champ, dude. I've been following this guy since before he got his initial release from the UFC. I was a big fan of him, even in his tough days and shit like that. So to see him make what he has of himself, fucking let's go, Brandon Moreno. I hope that he becomes a star that he appeared to possibly be in those presser events and stuff like that. The crowd was going nuts for him, man. And deservingly so. The performance that he put on in their first fight, and the performance even more so that he put on in the second one. The first one shut up all the doubters. The second one really put a spotlight on himself, in my opinion. So shout out Brandon Moreno. He literally could not have done any better. In my eyes, that first round was a 10-8 because he was winning the round clearly and then got the knockdown in the last 30 seconds. I thought it was a domination in that rematch. So props Brandon Moreno. I can't wait to see what the first Mexican-born champion brings to the UFC. But please go on with our main event, because that I had to point that out. That was my shining star, 110% on the night.
Well, dude, Brandon Moreno is a star of UFC 263. I mean, there's not really any way to argue it. But then again, do you think that Nate Diaz kind of stole his thunder?
No. Because of the fact that...
Really? Because I feel like I'm hearing more people talking about Nate Diaz should have won that fight in a lot of circles than I'm hearing about all the hype for Moreno winning the title. Now I'm talking about mainstream. I'm not talking about hardcores.
Yeah.
Hardcores,
I
everybody likes Moreno, but what I see on TV is more about Nate Diaz and what Nate Diaz did than what I see about Moreno.
Yeah, but also you're seeing on like ESPN, they're posting the stuff of Brandon Moreno doing his parade in Tijuana and stuff like that. So I don't believe so. I do believe that Nate Diaz is just gonna Nate Diaz, and whenever you're under that Stockton cloud, it's gonna give you a little bit of shadow you're gonna have to deal with, unfortunately. But no, I still think he was the shining star 110% on the night.
Well, speaking of stars, do you think, I mean, I would say a pretty even though he didn't finish him, I would say pretty solid performance from Israel Adesanya. I don't really know what the hell Marvin Vettori's problem is, because seeing that after the fight, I still think I won. I mean, I don't know what fight you were watching, fam. Like,
all right, I completely agree. He did not win it, not even a little bit. Did he win a round in that fight in your eyes?
maybe one, but not more than that.
I thought you could have really had.
I don't think that Izzy blanked him 5 rounds to none, but I could give him maybe 1 round. But if we're looking at it objectively, I was gonna say at most 2.
Yeah, I thought
and
2.
The second round is fucking debatable.
But I keep hearing all this speculation of, Izzy just shit on Marvin Vettori, and I'm like, Marvin Vettori did pretty good. He got outstruck by somebody who is a significantly better striker.
For somebody who talked all that shit about that ground game, his ground game didn't do shit.
That's what I was going to get to next, is the fact that his shit talking really put him
we talk about this all the time. As you guys know, we're a pro wrestling show too. Mm-hmm. Talk your shit. That shit. Get you the fight. But then realize, though,
in that hot kitchen, you got to live up to the flames.
Look, man, you can't untake back what you say. So if you're going to talk all that shit, bro, you have to back it up. And especially after seeing
fucking dancing in the fucking bar with fucking Paul Craig when you get your arm snapped, if you're talking all that shit,
Well, I mean, not to mention, dude, you were talking all this about, grappling this, grappling that. You really didn't do anything with any of the grappling stuff. Number one. And number two, the biggest thing that stuck out to me in that fight was Izzy's head movement. He made him miss so many times. He was still able to hit him. He was able to just outbox him.
You point out Izzy's head movement, which I completely agree with. Don't get me wrong, but I think the vice versa point of that should really be Marvin Vettori's lack of diversified striking. He kept throwing very similar combos, very similar punches at very similar angles. Everything about it was similar. He didn't really diversify his game enough. I really feel like that was a big issue. If he would have started throwing real heat when he had Izzy back to the fence. Sorry, the sickness is still there a little bit, guys. But when he had Izzy back to the fence like that, if he would have threw a bomb to his solar plex, I feel like that could have for real changed the fight. If he was at all doing any sort of body punches, if he would have threw a couple shots to the liver while Izzy's ducking and dodging, we could have seen a totally different fight. If he was stepping back and not fighting in Israel's kicking range the whole fight, we could have seen a different fight. If he would have threw some leg kicks of his own or checked some of the leg kicks that were thrown, we could have seen a totally different fight. But we didn't see that out of Marvin Vettori. What we did see, in my opinion, was pretty damn decent head movement. The lack of listening to a really, really, really solid head coach in Rafael Cordero. I thought the corner work was excellent. All the advice they were giving him was spot on. He just wasn't able to execute, in my opinion, and that it really showed out on the night.
I mean, there's not really any way to argue that, but then so here's where this begs the question. I'm also hearing people say, has Izzy peaked? Because, he had all that hype going into that 205 title fight, and then he lost. Now here he comes and beats Vettori again. Outside of the obvious fight that's next, and that's obviously a fight that we all want to see. I mean, he called out Bobby Knuckles again. But, I mean, realistically, say he wins that fight. What's really...
I don't want to say that, by the way. But go on.
I'm just saying, no. But, I mean, realistically, he wins that fight. Who the fuck else does he fight, number one? And number two, because he has created such a highlight reel of every fight he's knocking somebody out in some kind of nasty fashion, or at least making him look stupid. It begs the question, did he build too much hype for himself? So, I mean, I think that's why there was a little bit less hype to this fight. But I think that the matchup with him and Bobby Knuckles could be just the matchup to try to, really kind of put him back in the spotlight.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect matchup, like you said, to build up some real hype for. Just because of the simple fact he called him out, but he wanted it to be in New Zealand this time instead of in Australia. Perfect reason. If they can actually get everything going down there, I know the COVID restrictions are very, very, very strict down there. So if they could get everything going down there in a large venue, they could fill that thing up. Is the biggest venue you could possibly find in New Zealand they could fill up for a Bobby Knuckles versus Israel Adesanya fight, even if it is a rematch. So that being said, I can't wait. I'm a huge Robert Whittaker fan. One of the few fighters I actually looked at buying merch for. But hey, Rob, can we get a warehouse in fucking the United States so you don't have to pay $50 for shipping for a t-shirt? Like that would be pretty cool, bro. But other than that, I mean, we could fill that, like I said, no matter what stadium, it could be filled off a fight like that. So other contenders, though, realistically, even though I don't personally feel like he's deserving, he's always going to kind of get that rub because he is such a fan favorite. The Darren Till fight against somebody who is deserving if he's able to beat him, in my opinion, Derek Brunson. I think the winner of that fight is...
Darren Till has a legitimate gripe, especially because of injuries and stuff. I'm just saying we keep running. See, this is again why I say not everybody should get to go for the double titles.
Yeah.
Because then you got a guy who you got the Bellator situation where you got a guy that's basically holding up two divisions. Now, granted, he didn't win the 205 title, but this is the problem you run into. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying stunt somebody's growth and not give them the opportunity. But I mean, once you do that, you basically have killed the other division because now he's going to have to bounce back and forth in between the two. So I think that's the biggest cliffhanger coming out of it is what we see for Izzy coming out of this one. But speaking of fucking cliffhangers, NXT has managed to do it again, and I don't know if this means that we're getting a new general manager. I don't know if this means... I don't know exactly what it means. I keep hearing rumors that maybe Samoa Joe might come back and be the new general manager over there because at the end of NXT TakeOver, all hell broke loose, which, no surprise. But as they were walking out, William Regal basically said, I've been general manager for 4 years now, and I've never seen so much bedlam in this place. So maybe it's time for a change. And that's what we got left with. Now, as we record this, NXT is live, and William Regal is going to bring and shed some light to what he meant by that. But, I mean, I, for one, am a big fan of William Regal. I mean, granted, I've been watching the guy since... the 90s. But I mean, like I said, I'm a big fan of William Regal, so that's a hell of a cliffhanger. Speaking of cliffhangers, but before we get to the cliffhanger that we saw at the end of the event, NXT Takeover in your house was a fucking banger. From top to bottom was a fucking banger. And thank God I could watch it from in your house because I was a little preoccupied on Sunday. Ah, damn it. Ah, damn it. But hey, I don't got cancer and there's no new Crohn's outbreaks. So, hey, I will take it. But NXT Takeover in your house. Let's start from the top with it. Again, I'm not going to go match by match. I'm just going to point out the things that stuck out to me. MSK and Bronson Reed versus Legado de Fantasma. Okay, now, first of all, you know that we're fans of MSK here, as the MSK boys are past guests of the show. At least Zach Wentz and Trey Miguel are past guests of the show, which, if you haven't done so, hit that motherfucking subscribe button. Anyways, it was a great match. You had them as the tag team champions tag up with Bronson Reed, who you saw in the Takeover at Mania as well, to take on Santos Escobar and the tag team of Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde, aka DJZ. Dude, fucking banger. And as you saw in our notes, for my money, dude, this is the future of the NXT men's division in this match. I would say so. Now that they're giving Escobar a little bit more of a lot of times when guys get put in that cruiserweight thing, they kind of get stuck in that cruiserweight things and they don't really, get to move to the next rung of the title. So by them putting him in this match and having him feud with Bronson Reed, who is your new North American champion, I'm a big fan of that. I think I like I said, I like it because you're bringing new faces in there. You got a new fresh champ. I mean, you said it yourself when you watched Bronson Reed. To watch that guy fly for being a big guy, coming off the top rope with that splash like that, I don't want to catch a tsunami. That's all I'm saying. Because it looks like it might cave my motherfucking ribs in. I'm just saying. But
I'm sure it wouldn't feel good. That's for damn sure. Yeah, I mean, he's a big boy to be jumping up like that. And I seen the spot that he did on the match where he put them all up and bowling ball pinned them all down. I mean, he's a big boy to be flying around like that,
And I mean, that match had everything you could have wanted action-wise. And as a match to start off the show, I mean, I'm sure you saw you had everybody going over the top rope, landing on each other. It's the holy shit. You talk about a car crash.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For him to be the, bowling ball to end it all at the end. I mean, it was a from what I seen on the highlights video, because I was obviously sick over the weekend. That's They had some good action spots on the night. They definitely had some good action spots for sure.
And I mean, I don't want now. Let me preface this by saying I like the concept, but I don't want to see too many of these. But another thing that really made this match very interesting is that it was a 6-man tag match, but all the titles were on the line. The NXT tag titles were on the line, as well as the NXT North American title, which means if Legado de Fantasma wins, all them bitches are gone. So that added some extra stakes to it. And I gotta say, for never having been put together as a team, I expected Legado del Fantasma to be well-oiled as a team because they're a group.
Right.
But Bronson Reed and MSK really looked like a well-oiled tag team for a team that hasn't been put together. And as I said, in my opinion, you very well could be looking at some of the future of NXT in that match. The next thing I got on the docket for NXT TakeOver, you had Mercedes Martinez versus Xia Li. Now, I talk about this all the time, and you can hear it in our episode with the guys from the We Are NXT or We Are Next podcast from the Blue Wire family. Mercedes Martinez. We got to kick it with Mercedes Martinez right before she got signed by WWE. Couldn't have been cooler. I've been a fan of hers for years with her work with Evolve and Shine, and she's been one of the most badass women on the female scene for years, dude. She was the favorite in the Mae Young Classic when that came out. I mean, an OG of the game, dude. Like she's been in the game for a long time. You ask any of the female wrestlers, especially any of the independent talent, they know what's up. So you had her versus Xia Li, but I like the fact that they played the story. So again, I mentioned Mercedes Martinez ran her way through the first or through the Mae Young Classic. She beat Xia Li. Well, now Xia Li has had the full makeover since Tian Sha has come in. And dude, she came in and they were getting at it until Tian Sha, got up and Boa tried to interfere in the match. For those of you guys joining the stream, we're talking about Mercedes Martinez versus Xia Li from NXT Takeover in your house. Like I said, I like the way they played the story of the fact that Xia Li had lost to Mercedes Martinez and that she'd been waiting all this time to get her get back against Mercedes Martinez, in Xia Li getting not only her first win at an NXT Takeover, I would argue, obviously, her biggest win in WWE, I would say so far. Obviously, it had a little bit of help from Tian Sha, but I talk about this all the time, and I guess this is my problem when it comes to Monday Night Raw. I don't understand how NXT can be a WWE product and be able to do that long-term storytelling, or even if it's something that people forgot, be able to tie it in to make you be like, well, damn, I want to see these two fight. That's the magic when it comes to pro wrestling, and it's crazy to me how NXT does such a great job of that. And then on Mondays, there's just such a disconnect.
I mean, it's because of the younger and emerging talent. I feel more so than it is the writing and creative team is going to be more inspired because of the fact they're also the up and coming writers and creative and so on and so forth, because they are making their own brand in the WWE umbrella, I guess you could say, where I feel like Raw and stuff like that probably does feel stale even in a writing room.
Well, you got to remember though, here's the difference. NXT, you got Triple H and Shawn Michaels are on the head of it.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about how much more freedom there is with your storylines. On Raw, it's Vince McMahon. Period. You have to, you always hear people say you're performing for an audience of one. You got to be able to, Vince has got to be able to understand it. And I feel like that's why you're seeing so many people, you're seeing such a disconnect from people who, when they were in NXT, were badasses. And then they come to Raw and there's just this disconnect. Perfect example. Rhea Ripley was the shit in NXT. You bring her to Raw, give her a title shot just for asking for one. And then since she's become champion, it's just not the same. It's just not the same. It's just not the same vibe that you're seeing on Raw versus what you're seeing on NXT. But like I said, we're talking about NXT on this one, just trying to bring a little bit of context to what's going on with this one. All right. Now let's get to the match that one of the matches I was really looking forward to on this card. In the past few weeks, we've seen the return of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and the return of the $1 Million Championship, as he is said in the build up to this title. Not the most prestigious title, but the most valuable title in WWE, period, because of its monetary value. That title is the most expensive title in WWE history, period. I mean, if you've ever seen the thing, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure it out. It's all gold and diamonds. And for those who don't know, on the back, you have one big diamond for Vince. There's one big diamond for Linda, and then there's two smaller diamonds, one for Shane and one for Stephanie. People didn't know that. But yeah, like I said, that title has only had 4 people hold it.
Really?
There was obviously the $1 Million Man. You had the $1 Million Man's son. There was Virgil, and now shit. Why am I saying Virgil? Good God! And then the 4th one now is LA Knight. Now, you know, I love this story first of all because the fact that Cameron Grimes went from a redneck hillbilly to coming rich overnight off of some GameStop stock. I mean, I ain't mad at you, homie. Take your come up, throw out your $100 bills. But man, when this match started, it was going to be interesting to see what we saw from Cameron Grimes, if he was going to turn it on or what we were going to see. I mean, LA Knight, for any of those of you who know his past work as Eli Drake and many other places, look, man, the man is the truth. He looks like $1 million. Would be what you would think maybe a guy like Ted DiBiase would go for. But man, these guys beat the dog shit out of each other. They beat the dog shit out of each other. Great match for the ladder match. I don't think you have any losers out of this match. I think Cameron Grimes put up a good enough fight in it. I think it all is going to come down to what we see come out from next. But dude, he's one of the biggest stars they have in NXT right now. And I think LA Knight is perfectly suited to be with somebody like Ted DiBiase because he's got that cunning, he's got the body, he's got the look, and he can run his fucking mouth. He can run his fucking mouth, and with a guy like Ted DiBiase, it's going to be good to see. I hope that's not the end for this story because, like I said, dude, by far was one of the most entertaining things heading into TakeOver for me. And that damn Ted DiBiase has got the next heir to the $1 million title. I'm very interested to see what happens for that because, like I said, that was definitely a match that I was most looking forward to going into NXT TakeOver. Now, did you get to check out any of the stuff from the $1 Million ladder match?
I got to see some of the falls and stuff when he got pushed down off their golden ladder and stuff, but that was about the extent of it, honestly, on the highlight video that I was able to watch. It was about a 15-minute video of the whole event, and they actually didn't really show that much of that particular event. I was surprised because usually the ladder matches are kind of more action-packed in that regard, so...
Trust me, it was action-packed, but you also got to understand this card was anchored by 3 other title matches, too. You had the NXT title in the main event, you had the women's title, which we'll get to in a minute, and you, like I said in the beginning, you had the 6-man match for the NXT tag titles and the North American title. But, like I said, story-wise, oh my God, if you put Cameron Grimes on my TV every week, I'm cool. Like, the guy is just entertaining. He's entertaining as shit, and people sleep on it. But again, I've been watching Cameron Grimes since he was Trevor Lee and Impact and other places. Most don't, for those who don't know. I mean, Cameron Grimes has got a crazy style as well. I mean, and what else would you expect, being that he's from Cameron, North Carolina, and was trained by none other than the Hardy Boys. So, I mean, coming from a lineage like that, I mean, you can expect that Cameron Grimes is not afraid to take a risk, and I don't think either one of those guys was afraid to take a risk in this match as they went for it for the $1 million title. The next match we had on the card, you had Raquel Gonzalez, who, in my opinion, is going to be one of the stalwarts for the NXT women's division for years to come. I mean, she is a fucking powerhouse. I mean, she's over 6 foot tall. Go ahead.
I was there the night that she won her belt, and that was one of the things that did stand out to me is because she was in the match with the girl that I wish I could remember.
Io Shirai.
Io Shirai. She was my standout wrestler of the year so far, just because of the one performance. I know it may sound dumb, but she kicked ass. Anyway, God, this sickness is kicking my ass right now. That being said,
Better not have the Rona, damn it.
No, not the Rona. I just got the Rona. The cart gun done made me cough, and then the cough kept coming, then the cough kept going. So here we are, 5 minutes later, still coughing over one fucking good cart hit. But that being said, I was there the night that she won her belt, and she did stand out to me as a impressive, strong, big. Not big as in like the quintessential bigger, wider, I guess you could say, woman. She was very like muscular, very built. But I couldn't on that night, I guess I couldn't see what would define her from somebody else's perspective to be this star that I've not only heard you, but I've actually heard many outlets and stuff like that say as well that she's going to be a big star for years to come. So why, in your guys' opinion?
Well, I mean, first of all, you don't see that many females that are that imposing of a figure, number one. Number two, you don't see women that have the strength like that. And I mean, that leads into another thing that we could talk about. During the whole match, recently released Braun Strowman, the monster among men, and the man of Raquel Gonzalez, was tweeting all through NXT Takeover, and he said it best. He's like, everybody wants to talk about Raquel Gonzalez. He's like, I'm going to put this out there right now. I bet you Raquel Gonzalez can beat most of the men's ass in NXT. And, he might not be lying.
I mean, she's strong bit. Strong bit.
I mean, look, dude, she's a hell of an athlete. Her dad was a former football player. I take that back. Yeah, she was a former football player. Like I said, Raquel Gonzalez is a hell of an athlete, and her presence, dude. To me, what sets her apart, she reminds me a lot of a Chyna. Okay. She reminds me of a Chyna who, when she comes in, dude, you don't see women that are jacked like that. I mean, Charlotte is jacked, but I mean, Charlotte, you also see her doing a lot of the flips and stuff. Not saying that Raquel can't do that, but she throws chicks around the ring. She is, running that role. And the reason why I think that this win is such a statement win for her, you have to realize Ember Moon is a former NXT champion herself. She was on the main roster. She's a former NXT tag team champion. I mean, she's been around for a while. That is a good, credible win. And for you to go in there and get that win, even though Dakota Kai, played a little bit of a hand in it. Mm-hmm. Look, dude, that's a good win. That's the same as, in an MMA sense where you're seeing guys go and get these wins over big names. I mean, that's another good win to add to her title reign. Now, that being said, that brings up the good question outside of it. I posed this question after the match went off the air. Do you think we could see Dakota Kai turn on Raquel Gonzalez eventually? I think eventually it's only a matter of time before Dakota Kai gets too jealous. I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the best move for Dakota Kai because Raquel Gonzalez is her big bodyguard at this point. But I think that's inevitable down the line. But again, to me, their relationship really reminds me of a Shawn Michaels Diesel relationship, or Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash. You've got the big, powerful badass in Raquel Gonzalez, and then you got the smaller one who moves all around in Dakota Kai.
I want to pose a question to you what's in women's wrestling in particular, what style of wrestler do you prefer? Do you prefer the more bodyguard style of like big burling, able to throw people around and stuff like that? Or do you like the high flyers, I personally, I don't love how hard some of the spots are, I guess, in like the Japanese women's wrestling and shit like that. But those girls, like that style of like getting it and going and flying and letting it all like that's women's wrestling. That's my antithesis, I guess you could say.
So, again, I'm a wrestling nerd, as you can see behind me. I mean, that's why you're watching the show. But at the same time, for me, it really depends on the person, right? So for me, like, I'll use a couple different examples that we've already talked about in the show. So I'm a fan of all wrestling, but is your question like, what's my favorite type of female wrestler? Is that what you're asking?
What's your preferred wrestler? Like women's wrestler, do you like the China builds, or do you prefer like the Shio?
I like somebody that can work, dude. Like, don't get me wrong, China's a legend. There's no way else to put it. China's a legend. There's a reason why they hold her as the first big badass chick, and without her, you don't see somebody like a Raquel Gonzalez. Yeah. But for me,
they're big, they're imposing, and I'm not taking away from anything that they're doing. It's just my preferred is the other. Which
I agree, but I feel like we're getting more and more the same as we are in MMA into a time where you're getting to a hybrid. Right. I feel like Raquel Gonzalez is enough of an athlete that you could still see some of that stuff from her. You ain't going to see it all the time, but I think she could still do that. Where before, China, she fucked people up. She fucked people up until you saw the more feminine side to China. But to answer your question, as far as my personal preference, I like, and I guess this could be said for male wrestlers too. For me, the perfect pro wrestler is somebody who can mold a little bit of all of it. I like somebody who can go balls out and have one of those matches, but I like the psychology that goes with it too. I like to see somebody that you can tell is thinking in the ring. I like to see somebody that you can tell has a game plan to what they're doing. They're not just doing moves for the sake of moves. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for me, I know this is going to be a very stereotypical answer, but Charlotte Flair, I mean, I don't know how else to put it. To me, she is the most complete women's wrestler there is. When you're talking about from a character standpoint, she's a powerhouse. She has a gymnastics background and can still do all the flips and flying and all that stuff too, but then has the brains and the know-how to know when and where to do all that stuff. I like the total package. Now, as far as what's my favorite kind of women's match to see, oh yeah, dude, I like to see the more action-packed type stuff for sure. But as far as, my preference is, and again, that kind of goes to both males and females, and again, that can parlay into our main event. In our main event, you had a fatal 5-way for the NXT title. You had Karrion Kross, the champion, versus Adam Cole, versus Kyle O'Reilly, versus Johnny Gargano, versus Pete Dunne. I mean, dude. What'd you say?
So that's a list there.
I mean, dude, that was a fucking banger of a match, dude. Like, I mean, straight up. From start to finish, fucking banger of a match.
Did it live up?
Perfect example.
Did it live up to your expectations?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the right guy won. I don't understand why Karrion Kross is getting so much hate online. As far as I don't understand why he's getting so much hate online. As far as his reign as champion. I mean, why the hell would WWE not put the belt on that guy? Look at the entrance they got. You saw Karrion Kross's entrance. Karrion Kross has got one of the most badass entrances in wrestling, number one. So off rip, the second the guy comes down the ramp, people are eyes glued. Then you add Scarlett Bordeaux, who, I mean, I don't think I have to tell anybody, not just with her aura, but I mean, the woman is fine. All right. We've got Kimberly Close coming in the comments. Kim, I'm assuming you're talking about what your thoughts are on a female wrestler and what she should have. All right, let's see. What's Kim got for us? She needs a sexy persona, thick thighs, and great at wrestling skills, and a badass punch. I mean, there's not really. I mean, I see no lies here. I'm not mad at what you're saying.
No,
I definitely think that a star of a promotion needs to obviously have that off rip boom. You know, when you look at the screen, boom, right there, like she's a star. And I think when you're talking about carrying Cross with that entrance, and then to have somebody like Scarlett, on his arm, who's his legitimate real life girlfriend, dude, that right there is going to put eyes to a TV. Then when you add, for like the nerd like me, again, you add Johnny Gargano, who I have said multiple times on this show, him and Tommaso Ciampa had one of the best matches I've ever seen in front of my face live ever. Period. I don't give a fuck. WrestleMania, TakeOver, Raw, SmackDown, Indies, All Out, AEW, Royal Rumble, all of them. I've been to all them bitches.
What'd you see them under?
NXT Takeover. I saw them twice at NXT Takeover. I saw them at the WrestleMania Takeover for WrestleMania 33 in Orlando. And then ring the motherfucking bell. Me and Devin saw them beat the living dog shit out of each other in Chicago. Like, beat the shit out of each other in Chicago. In the street fight, they beat the hell out of each other all around the Allstate Arena, dude. Like, by far, one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. And they had 3 of them. So there was a trilogy, too. And you have to understand, and the story coming from it, that these guys were a tag team. They were both replacements in the Cruiserweight Classic, and were friends and were living together when they both first got signed by NXT, won the tag team titles, and then in Chicago, Tommaso Ciampa turns on Johnny Gargano in the same place, where they end up fighting later on. Dude, the shit was badass. So like I said, I digress from that, but like I said, you got Johnny Gargano, you got Karrion Kross, Pete Dunne. Oh my God, I'm so glad they finally have put him on NXT, because he has been one of the most. I've seen Pete Dunne wrestle everywhere from NXT TakeOver to the Knights of Columbus and Livonia for Evolve. And let me tell you, you see these fingers here? Pete, I shook hands with you with them. You ain't breaking my fucking fingers like you broke their fingers in that match. When that dude you saw him get a hold of homie's fingers in that match at TakeOver.
Yeah.
Tell me that didn't make you cringe a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm a fucking under 30-year-old man that works with these fucking hands for a living, and I tell you what, hand pain is no fucking joke, man. I'm dealing right now with a fucking middle finger that's been giving me hell for the last fucking 2 months. So,
well, fuck you too.
Hand pain, I feel it. I was flicking his ass off for fucking everybody's hands up, man. That shit's no joke. Stop doing that.
Dude, that shit is cringy. But I mean, like I said, and then you got Kyle O'Reilly, and then the story that they told in the match, right? I tell you all the time, story means a lot to it. So in the press conference they did the night before, they asked Karrion Kross, who do you think is the biggest threat to your NXT title in this match? You're in a fatal 5-way match. He said Kyle O'Reilly is the biggest threat to that title because he is on a whole nother level and has something to prove. Couldn't agree more. But then let's throw together the last man of this match in Adam Cole. Look, Adam Cole is the fucking truth. He had arguably the best NXT title reign of all time. Like I said, Adam Cole needs no introduction when it comes to NXT. And he played some mind games with all 4 in this match because, the Tuesday before TakeOver, all 4 guys are in the ring and Cole's talking shit from the screen, and then the lights go out and he comes out, super kicks everybody and lays them all out. So, like I said, the man is smart. There's a reason he was NXT champion for that long. But again, back to the story. we were all kind of wondering going into it, would Kyle O'Reilly be able to let his hatred for Adam Cole, go to the wayside, to be able to focus on the NXT title. And it came down to Kyle O'Reilly's got Adam Cole in a heel hook and about to submit him. And as he's got him in a heel hook, Karrion Kross goes behind him and catches the rear naked choke or the straight jacket and has got him in a rear naked choke while Kyle O'Reilly's got Adam Cole in a heel hook. And it's just a matter of who's going to tap first until Adam Cole finally gets his legs out and then Kyle O'Reilly gets put to sleep. Karrion Kross keeps the title. I think the right guy keeps the title, but I don't think we've seen the end of Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly. I wouldn't be mad at seeing that again, but I hope we see Kyle O'Reilly get to be kept near that title picture. I've said for years, Kyle O'Reilly is very underrated, not just for what he can do in the ring, but he's entertaining. The dude you can see is loving it, coming out to the ring, air guitar in it, and is a certifiable badass. Like I said, he had him in a heel hook. The guy, I forgot what belt he has in jiu-jitsu, but he's a Muay Thai practitioner and ties all that into his wrestling, not to mention the guy's been in the game for years. And again, story. Again, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and Adam Cole all had a story dating back to when they were in Ring of Honor. This isn't the first time that all these guys have all scrapped and fought and things. So again, this is another thing that makes NXT so good to me because they're able to tie everything in. And again, that brings me back to my point that I made when we started talking about the show. That brings me to the cliffhanger at the end of the night where William Regal said there needs to be a change. I don't know who that change could be. I'd like to think that since Samoa Joe still wants to wrestle, I don't know that it would be Samoa Joe. Again, as we're recording this, I haven't got to watch NXT yet, so I'm going to tune into that once we get done. But like I said, NXT TakeOver delivered just as I thought it would. We're going to have to see what happens. I would say, Corey, pretty much on the MMA and wrestling end of things, it delivered this weekend.
It absolutely delivered. On the MMA side, I am actually very excited for this upcoming card. I know we'll dig more into that on Thursday a little bit when we get our time in on there. But we have another yet again sleeper fan card, man. Did you know Marlon Vera's fighting this weekend? Bet you didn't know Cheeto's fighting this weekend. Bet you didn't.
I did.
There's but this card's one of those under advertised cards.
It's an underhyped fight. And I mean, like I say, those always tend up to be sleepers. And you know what's not going to be a sleeper that's going down this weekend? Pele Pro Wrestling. Check that shit out this Saturday on the Title Match Network. And this Thursday, we're going to be joined by the boss. Kyle Hessler is joining us to break down the whole card. And we're going to talk a little bit about the evolution of MMA, from the bar rooms to what we're seeing in the UFC and more. There's a lot of things to talk about with Kyle, as well as our homie Sam Adonis is going to be going to war with fucking Jeff Cobb. I hope you can survive, Sam, because you might be getting some frequent flyer miles. It's going to be a good one.
Closing thoughts. Clarissa Shields, bravo on your resilience. For her to get dominated for 2 rounds and then come out there and still chase a finish in that 3rd round and not get overwhelmed, not get swallowed up on the ground, kind of do a decent job of defending once she was down there. She wasn't able to get up by no means or really give too much resistance on the way down, to be honest with you. But to not get overwhelmed, to still be able to get the finish in that 3rd round and to maintain a winning record in her
dude, like I said, we talked a little bit about that on Tuesday, but like I said, shout out to Clarissa Shields, Detroit's own. I'm definitely interested to see what they do next for her. Obviously there's going to have to be a little bit of step up in competition, but I think ultimately they're going to want her to fight Kayla Harrison, but I hope that PFL does it smart and gives her a few more fights before we get there.
A few is an understatement when you're talking Kayla Harrison.
I agree, but that's my point. Like, they need to give her some more fights before, we jump to that gun, because we all know that promoters aren't always good at it, but we've got a pretty damn good promoter coming on this Thursday in the homie Kyle Hessler. So we've flapped our gums for long enough. Until next time, and in the in-between time, if you haven't done so, hit that motherfucking subscribe button. Peace!